Hello, my name is Tom, and in this video I will solve puzzle number 20 of the SquareCells game. Okay, we only have 4 group clues here, like this. Now I can use my corner rule and delete these squares. So let's look at the column. No, let's look at the columns now, right here. In this section I have 4 squares at the bottom. Okay, so I can delete this square, and now I can already complete the group of 2 connected squares. So I have 4 connected squares here in this column. 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, or like this. So these 2 squares definitely have to be marked. This column doesn't help yet. This one, 1, 2, 3, gap, 1, 2, 3, and I have 3 left, also doesn't help yet. But we can look at this column. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's mark this one. Gap 1, 2, 3. Now if I come from the other side, 1, 2, 3. Gap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These ones have to be marked, and I can do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3. Let's mark this. A gap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I count from the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A gap and 1, 2, 3. Like this. So these also have to be marked. Here I can't do anything yet. Here I also can't do anything yet. So let's look at this one. Here I have the same like in this column. I have 4 connected squares at the top, however, so I can delete this one. I can complete the group of 2 connected squares like this. And I need 4 connected squares here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These 2 have to be marked because if I count from the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, I definitely need those here. Okay, so now let's look at the clues of the row here. We have 4 connected squares, and they can only be positioned here, so I can delete this square and complete this group of 2 connected squares like this. And this is already marked with 2 squares here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at this column. That doesn't help. Let's look at this row. Let's look at this row now. We have 3 connected squares, a separate square, and 3 connected squares. So we can obviously put the 3 connected squares like this. Here are the first ones. Can we put them like this? No, we can't, because we end up with 4 squares. Can we put them like this? Let's see. We would have a gap, 1 separate square, a gap, and then I would need 3 more connected squares according to this clue, but I only have 2 left. So that's not an option. The 3 connected squares have to be positioned like this, and this one is a separate square. The remaining 3 connected squares can only be positioned like this or like that. So let's leave it like this. Here the same basic principle applies. I need 3 squares here, a gap, and a separate square, and then I have 3 squares like this. In this row the same thing applies again, only from the other side. I need 3 squares here, a gap, and a separate square, so I have another gap, and I can mark this square for the remaining 3 connected squares here. And I have the same thing again in this row. 1, 2, 3 squares that are connected, a gap, a separate square, a gap, and 3 connected squares have to contain these 2 squares here, this one. Okay, let's look at these clues now. 4 connected squares doesn't help me yet. Here I have 4 connected squares at the end of the row, so I can delete this square and complete the group of 2 connected squares like this. Okay, so let's look at the column clues again. Here we have 4 connected squares left, and we have exactly 4 squares marked. Let's delete them. And here we have 4 connected squares like this already marked, so we can delete these squares. We have 1 square left, but we don't yet know where. In this column we have 3 connected squares at the top and 3 at the bottom. Both of the 3 connected squares obviously cannot be in this position because we only have 5 squares here, so I need to put the top 3 connected squares here, and the bottom 3 connected squares can be positioned like this, or like this. In any event, this square is part of these 3 connected squares. Okay, so here in this column we can actually complete it because we only have 5 squares left up here and 3 squares left down here. And here in this column we have only 5 squares left at the bottom and 3 squares left at the top. So this column is also complete. And here in this column the same thing applies like in this column. We need 3 connected squares at the bottom, and we can mark 1 square here as a definite part of these 3 connected squares. Looking at this column, we need 4 connected squares at the bottom. They are marked here already, so 1, 2 can be deleted, and this one can also be deleted. And here in this column we also need 4 connected squares, so let's delete the remaining squares because we have 4 squares marked already. Okay, let's return to our rows. We need 4 squares in this row. 1, 2, 3 are marked already, so the 4th one can only be here, and we can delete this square. Let's look at this row. No, we don't yet know where the 3 connected squares are positioned. Here we also don't yet know where they are positioned. Here we can also not know yet, here also not. But here we see that we have 4 connected squares, 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, and we can delete this square. Looking at the columns again, we need 1 separate square at the end of this column, which can only be here. And looking at this column again, we see that we have 3 connected squares, and since now we have 2 squares marked here, we can't reach this square, otherwise we would have 4 connected squares. So this square can be deleted, and the same is true in this column. We have 2 squares marked here, so the 3 connected squares cannot reach this square, that can be deleted. And in this column we have 1 separate square to be left to be marked, which can only be here. And then we have this column completed. So let's look at the rows again. Here, this row is completed by now. I see that now. I missed that before. I can delete this one. And here, this row is also completed. Right? I can delete this one. And here I can also complete this row because we only have 3 squares left here. And on this side, no, this column is also completable with 3 connected squares like this. Now I can't go forward only by looking at these clues here, because like if we look at this section here, we need 3 connected squares in this row, and we need 3 connected squares in this column, right? So we could finish this either like this or like this, right? So which way to go? Well, we can only solve this by looking at this final clue here, because we only have 2 squares left to remove. If we would put this square in this row here, we would have to remove this square because of this clue, and we would have to remove this square because of this clue, right? So we wouldn't have any more squares to remove from the board, which means we would have to mark this square and this square and this square. But this doesn't comply with either one of this clue or this clue. We would have 4 squares here and 4 squares here. So in fact, this square cannot be part of the solution. We can delete it, and now we have to mark this square because of this clue and this square because of this clue, like this. Now we only have 1 square left to remove, and now it's obvious that the remaining squares have to be finished like this, and we have 1 square left to remove, and the puzzle is complete. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again in my next video when I will solve puzzle number 21 it is, or 22, I don't even remember. Well, hope to see you anyway. Thank you, bye.